I worship you. I worship you. Hey, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
Good morning, beautiful ladies. Today we're talking about arguing with a narc. Thank you for liking and subscribing to my channel. This is kind of what I feel led to do right now, is to help other women to be strong through this and to encourage you that, you know, there is some type of end game to this. Really, when you're arguing with a healthy person, usually you want to be heard, you want to be validated, you want to come up with a solution for the problem. You know, we assume that they're going to be able to meet us somewhere in the middle. That's like the whole goal of, you know, even bringing up some type of confrontation or conflict, is to come up with a solution and have them meet you in the middle. I mean, after all, this is somebody that you think that loves you and cares about you, and you love and care about them. And, you know, somebody that loves you I would think would want to see progress in the relationship and everybody healthy and happy. That's not the case with the narc, especially after they've devalued you. You know, in the beginning, you know, I'd bring up things and they'd agree, and, you know, we'd go about our business and life was fine. But after they've devalued you and they just don't see any value in anything you have to say anymore, it's not, it's a horrible, horrible place to be. They don't play fair, any of them. Anybody on the narc spectrum, whether it be the grandioso or whether it be the covert or the vulnerable narc, they just don't play fair, and they won't help you to get on the same page. They deny. So if you confront them with anything that they've done, they will deny. They just will not take accountability for their actions. They don't think they've done anything wrong. Or if they, I mean, the way their minds work is so different. So, I mean, I know that, you know, after you've been devalued and they put nothing into you anymore, and they're not investing anymore, and they're not doing any of those things anymore, they could care less how you feel. The issue is that they don't want to be without you. So what they do is they pacify. At that point, you're just getting totally pacified and, you know, hey, we're good. Let's just move on. They reframe. So there's a lot of times that I would be like, okay, well, you said this and this bothered me and I want to talk about it. And I would get, well, I never said that. You know, when you're in a relationship where you feel like you have to have a tape recorder for every conversation you have so you can play it back, so that you don't feel like you're insane all the time, it's not healthy. You know, and as I said, you know, I've talked in previous about, you know, you need to take accountability for why you allowed this to happen. And I know it's hard because, you know, as empath and codependents, we're all in. We love these people. We, you know, whether it's a man or a woman, we love these people. And, you know, we're going to do whatever we can to fix it and to try to make them happy and to try to make everything fly right. But the issue is that's not what their intentions are. Their intentions are gaslighting and confusing and projecting. And they're also bullies. So they're all about intimidation and power and control, and making fun of you. This was something that, you know, was done quite frequently in my last relationship, where he just constantly made fun of me. It wasn't just me, it was my girls too. He would find something that nobody else really knows about you. You know, when you live with somebody, there's private things that you learn about people, and those things are not always the pretty side of you, and they're kind of embarrassing, but he would push those buttons to see if he could get a reaction. And so I had to tell my girls, don't show any emotion towards anything that he says that way. So if, you know, my children were half Hispanic, and he would be calling them Mexicans and things like that. And if they got upset, he would push and push and push and push and push. And I told him, I'm like, you know, I'm like, you can't get upset about it, because the more that he would get a reaction, the more he dug into it. You know, because it's just a way to control everybody, whether it was me or the girls. Deflecting, they throw everything off track. to where you get confused and you will start defending yourself, which is such, and that's the thing that I was guilty of that big time. Like I'd be like, well, this, and this. And he'd be like, well, what about this? And all of a sudden I'm defending myself and we're not even talking about what he did. And that was one thing that, always bothered me, is that I had to forgive him over and over and over. And I would do one thing that would probably cause a narc injury. And I was never forgiven for that. I can't look past that. This is something terrible, terrible that you did. And I'm like, but you did so much way worse, and it wouldn't matter. I mean, once they've made up their mind about what you've done to injure them, they don't forgive. Crazy conversations and distortion of reality, they make things up. I can't even tell you how many times I was accused of cheating in this relationship, or how many times I was accused of texting other men, or how many times I was just accused of really nonsense things. And, I was like, okay, I'm like, where's the reality to this? I mean, I am guilty of definitely venting to people about him. A lot of times, I've told him I talk to myself a lot. And a lot of the reason I do that is so that I can come up with a solution by hearing myself. It was never to hurt him or hurt his feelings, but he's the one that chose to put recording devices in my room so that he heard all these conversations of me going, okay, this is what he did. And I wouldn't let loose of that. My mouth would just run wild, and I was just desperately trying to get answers from somebody else that I wasn't crazy. But once you're in this argument with them, the communication stops. They shut down, and you're sitting there having a one-way conversation. A lot of times I felt like I was just talking to a wall. The only thing I could get was anger or just them throwing more things at me than dealing with the issue. It's just a vicious circle of going round and round and round with no solution. Eventually you're crying uncle. You wish you didn't even bring it up. You don't even know what you're arguing about anymore because there's been so many things brought into the mix. I was always the emotional crazy one. Brick walls. I mean, you just hit these brick walls and you're left with nothing but confusion. You're exhausted. There's no solution. You're frustrated, questioning your own sanity. You find out, you eventually end up apologizing for the conversation, apologizing you brought it up, just to make peace, and to where they're the victim of you apologizing. Their actions never line up with their words. So many times I'd be like, okay, well, this is the issue, and I would come up with a solution, and he'd agree to that solution, and it would never be done. It was always me coming up with the solutions for the problems. It was never a joint venture to where he was helping me with that. And as I said, I've been through this several times with my ex-husband as well. They make you feel selfish, and eventually you start to think that just having your basic needs met are selfish. And and I'm kind of going, okay, well, maybe this is me. Maybe this is me not being nice or playing nice. But really the thing is that you have to be aware that you have emotions, and those emotions need to be talked about. I mean, I'm not saying that we make big decisions based on emotion, but what I am saying is in your relationships, you should be heard. And those are things that need to be discussed, and you shouldn't be afraid to bring them up or feel like you're walking on eggshells because they won't validate it. Again, you're looking for validation from somebody that's not even valid. I mean, I could get into so many of the arguments that we had, and I would be like, and some of them were major things that he did. And I could never get him to be accountable. He never apologized for them. He would never be accountable and say, yes, I did do that. And I apologize for that because I didn't mean to hurt you. There was never any of that kind of stuff going on. He would justify. It was always justifying. And, and really, even in that justification, it was, okay, well, I did it this way because I knew how you would react. Well, if you knew how I'd react, then why would you do it? If you could count that far ahead and how many steps ahead, in your head of how I was going to react, why would you do something deliberately to hurt me? That just never made any sense to me. But anyway, hopefully you guys are out of these relationships and just looking for confirmation on just knowing the cycles of the arguing. But you need to get out of these relationships. They're not going to serve you in any way, shape, or form, or ever be the love that you need to be loved. And I just firmly suggest moving on. I'm going to leave you with Isaiah 43:18. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. Which is, if you've put this person behind you, you need to leave them behind you. And you need to look at the greater blessings in your life and the greater things that God's doing in your life and the things that are really wonderful and the things that you do have and not the things that you feel like you've lost. God's going to restore that anyway. I know he did in my life. It was kind of amazing because as soon as I let go of this person, God just came in and wholeheartedly poured blessing on me and made sure that I was at peace. And, that was part of my recovery, was just just to know I was going to be okay. Anyway, I hope this video helped you out today, and we'll be talking soon.